First, Luke and Danny got connected. Then it was Matt and Jessica. And now, with their first fight together against the Hand, the battle lines have been drawn. It's our continuing coverage of the Marvel Netflix team-up event, The Defenders. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to our continuing coverage of The Defenders. Alright, we covered episodes 1 through 3 last time. Now we're going up 4 through 6. As we left our group from their own different directions, they all came together against the Hand. And now finishing that first awesome group fight up in Midland Circle, the team has retreated. And we're about to jump in to find out what happens next. So let's kick it right off. Here we go. Episode 4. Alright, Episode 4, Royal Dragon. And let's just start off straight with the beautiful color palettes that they have. That whole opening scene, I mean, throughout it in the Chinese restaurant, it's perfect. Now, of course, we have our individual colors that are associated with each of our heroes. Red for Daredevil, blue for Jessica, yellow for Luke, and green for Danny. But this is the first place where we really have all of those colors coming together. Appropriately so, since this is all of them coming together. The whole meet and how do you do and get to know you. But we have the red from the walls decorations. We've got the green from the lettering, green jacket and all the accents. We've got the yellow neon. We've got the blue bar light. So it's perfectly sort of blended together to show everyone now coming together. So it was a wonderful chromatic approach towards really establishing those first few shots. Now, since this is the big getting to know you sequence of this series, I think they handed it off really well. I loved seeing all the different personalities coming in and really holding on to a lot of their character. You know, Matt especially really concerned about his identity. He doesn't even want to give it up at the beginning. It takes sort of a little coaxing off of Jessica there. But that, you know, not willing to come in. Danny, of course, wanting to have a big group. I mean, Colleen was sort of suggesting about finding allies, and now he has allies that are powered, and he's kind of overjoyed about the whole thing. Luke, somewhat tentative. Jessica's not so much of a joiner, so everyone is approaching it, I think, honestly from their character points, and I think that this is one of those real interesting bits to really hold true to all of the characters and their personalities in a meeting like this. I think it may have been a bit of a challenge, but I think that they pulled it off really well. We're seeing, as you know, there's the concern about the legal situation that Jessica is bringing up, you know, which is also why Daredevil is talking about his whole identity. Oh, by the way, I love the little awkward after the whole, when Jessica finally convinced him and he finally pulled off the scarf. He's like, I'm Matthew. It was just such this awkward kind of like geek moment. But there were a lot of these kind of honest character bits here, and it was just good seeing all of that sort of weighed together, all of their little back and forth, and the friendship's starting to get sparked. There's really definitely the chemistry going on between Danny and Luke. We can see where later on they become the heroes for hire. They become a group together because they do have a real interesting dynamic. In fact, we do have sort of almost a pairing here of really, while everybody's working together, the initial pairing that we had started with Jessica and Matt and Luke and Danny, those both kind of work. I mean, you have the lawyer and the investigator, and then you have, you know, the corporate guy and the street guy coming together. So while we have a good cohesive group, we can also see where individual dynamics between them all are cool. Also, the little catch-up between Luke and Jessica was kind of nice, breaking up through those little walls that had gone up between them. So as a blending of character, really introducing everything, really staying strong to who everyone is, I thought they handled this beautifully. And then, of course, Stick comes in. Now, previously, this was kind of the get-to-know-you part of personality-wise. With Stick's entrance, we learn about the mission. We start to learn about the Chase, how the Chase was created as an army for the Iron Fist. And then, of course, we found out all about the Hand. And that is balanced out really nicely with all the other scenes that we have with the Hand. And it's interesting when we have the whole colorful palette of the royal dragon, and then when it shifts over to Elektra, it is all gray and drab, just elements of black and white and shady. We can see that kind of difference between the vibrancy of character and someone like Elektra, especially at that point, who is sort of devoid of character still. She is still trying to figure out who she is. And then through those, of course, we have Alexandria giving our little insights into the rest of the hand. We get to meet Murakami in a very cool sequence. I love the back and forth of the English and Japanese in that scene. It gave it a very cool feel, and also it sort of, it lets everybody know everyone understands each other's language. It's just what you feel most comfortable seeing. So it kind of gives a breadth to all of the characters as well. That it doesn't really matter what language you speak, everybody understands anything. We learn kind of his position approaching thing, his joy of getting near death before dying. So, good insight into his character. But it's really the background of the hand that I think that is the coolest thing. That we find out that the hand is from Kunlun. That there was the substance that was discovered ages ago, and the Masters of Kunlun wanted to use it for healing, for good, and these five wanted to use it for their own purposes. So, not really sure if they got tossed out or they left willingly, or kind of depends on the point of view. They seem to sort of tell it two different ways, but that's what sort of sent them off back into the world, where they each took sections of the world in order to rule over. So we've got Alexandra, we've got Murakami, we've got Gao, we've got Bakudo, and we've got Sawande. So these are the five fingers of the hand, which makes sense. The hand, five fingers. I never really thought about it otherwise than that. So the hand wants to use the substance in order to live forever. Which is just a little bit too crazy for for Jessica to grab. Much like Luke tells Danny he's not looking for super friends, Jessica's not at this point looking to be a hero. So that leaves her momentary exit at the very least, but really so she can kind of dig in a little bit more. And I loved her investigation, but going back home, even trying to get rid of all of the evidence, she still catches the odd thing, which of course is the signature, the same signature on all of the transfers of ownership going back to 1941 and 1849 and 1820. Same signature. So now suddenly this people living forever thing isn't quite so insane, which will end up paying off very well for the group after Alexandra finally shows up at the dragon, which was cool. I mean, I love the fact that she just sort of appears, but she's also still got that real powerful energy. I love how she's kind of like, she's smooth and condescending and yet honest and approachable in her own particular way. It's Sigourney Weaver. She does amazing stuff. But here, of course, we begin the whole temptation thing to try and get Danny over onto her side in a willing concept. And the standard trope of, look, you know what happens when we all come. There's going to be a lot of deaths. You want to save some lives, don't you? You just need to join up with us and it will all be fine. And sure, while Danny is very much against the hand, that idea of saving lives, of minimizing life loss, there is a bit of a temptation there for a moment. And that's where I love, again, that connection that's growing between Danny and Luke. It takes Luke kind of giving him that eye to go, yeah, man, we got your back. To really let him sort of grab hold. We're seeing these defenders coming, together. There's that group is forming. Which is, of course, the moment that Elektra goes and shows up, ready to show off her badassery until she is run over by a van. It was an awesome moment. It's perfect. And it's perfectly Jessica Jones, too. I love how she just sort of shows up there. It's like, okay, did I miss anything? And then we have our heroes together. The five of them, if we're counting Stick for the moment, united against the hand, which is kind of interesting too, because this episode was also talking about the hand itself reuniting the five fingers. So we have the five fingers of the hand, and then our five defenders now really lined up and ready to go. So, super awesome way to end the episode. Gets me really excited. I'm gonna grab both of these gummy ones here, and let's jump right back in to episode 5. Alright, episode 5, Take Shelter. Yeah, 'cause the hand's after you. Beautiful. I love the kind of opening bit how we have all of the different, bands and groups coming together to attack, heading towards the Royal Dragon. There was sort of very kind of Warriors-esque feel to it. And then when Murakami did jump in through the skylight in that awesome entrance, Batman-esque entrance, the fight's always going on. It's not just that's the moment where everyone is down. Things are still happening. And as Stick says, the only way to get out of it surrounded by all of these people is to fight together, which they immediately tossed to the side. It's a good fight, it was a fine fight overall. I kind of enjoyed it. I just had to laugh how immediately everyone splits off. Of course, we have Matt trying to take Elektra to try and pull her back. Now, it has taken, 3-5 minutes of fighting or whatever. It's taken 2 different fights for him to finally say her name. I mean, even throughout this, he was sneaking up to it. I would have said her name first off. That's the one that's going to resonate the most. And that does kind of get to her, at least enough to kind of push Murakami off. But now we can start to see maybe a little disruption going on within them. We also get to see Gao being kind of badass. She's got her own little chi punch action going on. Did not see that from her. Adds kind of a cool, fun level to all of that. And then of course we get the loss of Luke for 5 minutes. Seriously, did we think that the trash truck was actually going to do any damage to him? So no, he doesn't get lost, but he does get Sowande. So now we have a chance to get the group has a chance to actually get some answers about what specifically they're after Danny for. But of course, Sowande was trained by the same masters at Kunlun that the Iron Fist was. He is not going to give in, but because he's the hand, you get the threats to the family, and thus everyone has to scatter and go collect their loved ones. First off with that, Danny, if you are being chased by the hand, don't go running into blind, dark alleys all by yourself. When he's down there waiting for Luke, and the trucks pull up, and then he runs out, and not only did he and Colleen separate, then he goes into this dark alley alone to try and find. Yes, and that gets Colleen up to Bakuto, and we get that whole little cool sequence moment there, but I just was like, Danny, why? This was the stupidest mistake. Claire, on the other hand, in that same sequence, has the best response as Luke's trying to get her and is like, I can't tell you right now. I'll tell you when we get going. We'll just grab your stuff. She's like, oh, you went against the hand. Let me guess. It went well at first, but then things turned bad and now we're all in danger. I hate being right all the time. She said it in a cuter voice in that one. But I love that. I just love that bit. Also, that Trish, still trying to talk about the earthquake thing, is interrupted when Jessica goes and grabs her. It was just kind of funny considering last time she was talking about it, she got interrupted. She tried to tell the story again, and Jessica interrupts her. But that's where we get the return of Daredevil in his outfit, which was awesome. I gotta tell you, I felt really good seeing him show up. And that was after the whole scene with Karen and stuff where he had to sort of deal with that. And I thought that was kind of funny. As much as Karen was kind of pushing against, oh my God, you've got to do this again. Now, didn't the last time they talked, she was mentioning something along the lines of that Daredevil had actually saved lives? I mean, in some way it was kind of like a supporting statement. I guess maybe not to make him feel so bad about it, but still, that's a little bit of waffling. And so we get all of our secondary characters gathered together in the police station in one place, which is where they can have all of their emotional connective moments there and support, and Claire and Colleen together, and we got Foggy and Karen and all that. I love how everyone's kind of meeting up and connecting here. We got to go back and try and figure out what's going on with Sowande. At least that's Daredevil's bit. And the team now, maybe a little different view of Daredevil. Once he's got the costume on, a little bit more edgy. Of course, where could he have gotten it from? Stick in the previous scene was trying to throw Iron Fist right under the bus. The moment before we learned, yes, we're the army that chases the army of the Iron Fist. Then he's like, hey, Maddie, that guy can't lead anything. You should be the one in charge. Well, it's kind of Daredevil is in a way kind of the leader of the Defenders, so I don't know, sort of works that way. But we have that quick bit torture scene, and then the argument afterwards, which allows everybody to turn their back on Sawande. You would think that the guys with super hearing would have heard him doing all of this. But no, he gets to escape to grab Danny, threaten him with a knife, which is silly because he's not going to kill Danny. They need Danny alive. So that, they should have just rushed him in that, but really this was a sign that Sawande is going out, and there is Stick with that quick slice, now headless corpse, and so now they've got other problems they've got to deal with. Now, while Sawande was previously kind of alluding to Danny, that Kunlun had been destroyed, and how I'd seen them all die, when we had the conversation between Gao and Bakudo, they're talking about going back to it as they're looking at that picture of Kunlun. So that seems to imply actually that Kunlun was not destroyed in any manner, that they are still trying to actually get back there. So that's kind of an interesting little point of view there. I'm hoping we've finally get a little bit more of a concrete answer out of that. But of course, the end, we have Elektra now separating out. Everyone's worried that she might be reflecting back, and she does seem to. She goes back to the place where she died on the rooftop, which of course leads her down to Matt's. And then that final ending scene where she kind of curls up on the bed. And if you notice, she curled up in a whole fetal position. So it's almost like she's about to go through another rebirth, like a second rebirth here, as she's being reminded of Elektra and as she's soaking in all of the memories from Matt. She's now there in a full rebirth position. So the question that comes out of that now is, who's going to be born? Is it going to be Elektra Natchios? Is it going to be the Black Sky? Or is it going to be a blending of the two or something entirely different? Let's not stop now. We're almost done with our last episode of the night. Let's get right to it. Episode 6! All right, Episode 6, Ashes, Ashes. A great opening, very telling really for how this episode kind of pans out. That opening sequence with Alexandra listening to the old phonograph. It's old, it's scratchy, it's slightly out of tune, and it just starts to skip. It's wearing down, kind of like she is. We even seen that scene later on before she was taking like one of those pills, and now she is taking handfuls. So this is this whole scene where her degrading really starts to come to the fore. But let's jump first back into the opening kind of fight sequence. The moment after Sawande is dead, and they finally realize, that if Iron Fist is the key, then there must be a door, and that's really what he's for. And if the Hand is after the Iron Fist and he is the key into order opening it, would the easiest way to defeat them from just taking the Iron Fist away. Danny, of course, his whole job is fighting the Iron Fist. He tells everybody that. I'm the Iron Fist, and I'm here to fight the Hand. So he's not going to walk it out. So this is the kind of first, little fractional test of the group. Interesting that it relays back to what Alexandra was telling them back in the Royal Dragon when he was telling Danny, not only the more things that you have, the easier it is to break you, which is why they had to go and get all of their friends. But specifically, the line is, they're going to turn on you. You think they're going to friends, you think they have your back, but they won't be. And this is kind of that moment. As much as Luke is trying to say, we are all on your side, not really feeling it right now. So we have a nice, great fight scene. Was enjoyable. I love the mix-up of techniques. Not entirely sure what that explosive shockwave punch was. Hadn't seen that before. That was super cool. Took all of them out. And then of course, Jessica finally just finishing the fight right there. So now we've got a bit of a repairing up again with our natural pairs. We have that Luke is going to go watch after Danny, make sure that he is safe, and then we have Jessica and Matt going off to do the rest of the investigation. Now, when Matt and Jessica go to Matt's apartment to get dressed, to get changed there, I was kind of surprised that it took so long for Matt to realize that Elektra had been there, or someone had been there. I would have suspected that he would have, I don't know, smelled her. I mean, I guess he's not wearing the same perfume. I mean, that's really not what I mean. But, I would have thought that he would have noticed something out of place, something a little different before he had found his book. So that was a bit of a surprise. However, in that moment, in realizing that she had probably been there, he still doesn't tell Jessica. And they had just had. She had just expressed to him how pissed off she was about him and his incomplete stories of not finishing things. So that doesn't really learn all that much. He plays everything kind of close to the vest. But this, of course, leads them to the brownstone, which leads them to the piano. If you had noticed, he was playing the Daredevil theme on the piano. That was super cool to hear. But that gets us to the plans of Midland Circle, and of course a guarantee that, yes, there was an idea to do explosives, that Jonathan wanted to drop everything down, and that there is, in fact, a large structure underneath Midland Circle. What it is, they don't know, but now they got plans, and they've got a plan to take it out. Now, Stick, of course, had to die this episode. He made this the cardinal sin. You don't try and kill a hero. Now, he did try to kill Elektra back in Daredevil Season 2, but she was more of a secondary character, and that was all part of the story development, so it was understandable why he lived through that. But now trying to take out Danny, that's pretty much, then you've got to go out. I mean, we had the earlier scenes where we have kind of the implied fear that Luke has of Stick when they're talking about Sawande's head, and he's like, "That's murder. I just died. You're right. I don't want to know anything." And then we had the conversations where we have, again, Danny and Luke still bonding over those stories with Jessica, which was rather cute. Definitely evil to use the drugged incense. Very wrong. But again, Stick had to go there. We can't actually kill Danny. I thought it was going to be Matt and Jessica that was going to stop him in time, especially since Matt had heard and they're running, and I thought Jessica was going to do one of those super leaps up to the top of the building and kind of finish it off while Matt was running up the stairs again. But no. Ends up being Elektra, who is there, and she now has her memory and badassery. It calls Matt by name, so she's got all of that. And then KO's Luke. That was pretty badass right there, too, man. That's tough. And then she is off to take Danny to Alexandra. Of course, Alexandra, as we had talked about at the top of this, is running out of time. She's starting to fall apart. Gao has seen her weakness, which is now setting up the coup that Murakami seems to start at the end of the episode there, when he approaches her and does the whole "I wanted your last meal to be powerful." But of course, Elektra comes in with Iron Fist, which allows her to feel that moment of superiority and strength just until the moment where it all ends, which was appropriately so. I mean, I did like that when she met up with Elektra at the cemetery, that she was telling her the story about it, because I thought one of the weaknesses, I already said, one of the weaknesses that she had is not having any of this information, and thus could be surprised by it. It's better to let her know about her life and turn things around. At least that, I think, was Alexandra's plan. Certainly that whole idea that she doesn't want to be with the other four, and that now she has the one, and this is the reason why she was there, and she didn't want to be alone. I mean, we're getting a lot of this kind of like Sith master and apprentice feel going on. It will be just the two of us against the world, which is why it's so appropriate that during the big monologue speech that she gets stabbed in the back with the same size that Elektra had spied walking into the boardroom. So we did have that moment of foreshadowing there, and quickly takes her out. Wondering what that rebirth was going to be at the end of last episode? Well, this is what it ends up being. She is Elektra Natchios and the Black Sky. She's the two of them together. She is something else, and she is now going to be the head of the hand. Head of the hand? Should you have a leader of the hand? Wrist of the hand? Forefinger of the hand? Is that what you'd call it? I don't know what the actual term would be. So now Elektra knows about the substance, and that the substance is what's at the bottom of the hole, and that is what they need the Iron Fist in order to get. Someone else may know something too, if we caught at the end when Alexandra mentioned Daredevil, and when Elektra stabs her, mentions his name is Matthew. Did you see Gal perk up? Because I think she can connect that Matthew must be Matt Murdock. So now we have Gal knows who Daredevil is. Alright, so that wraps up this little group. I'm going to go grab a bite before diving back into the last few episodes. So, as usual, please let me know what you thought of this review. What are you thinking of these episodes? Give your feedback down in the section below. Then, of course, you can always subscribe, check out other videos and reviews. Just go to town. Anyway, I'm going to go eat, and then I'll be right back. So, I'm D, and I'm out of here. See you guys in a few. Bye-bye.